You okay? I understand there's been a Citizens Advice Bureau in Ulverston for a long time. Could you tell me a bit about the history?
Yeah, sure. I mean, as probably everybody knows, Citizens Advice Bureau, the organisation grew out of the Second World War, and the Second World War was declared on September the 3rd, 1939, and the first 200 bureaus opened across England in September, on September the 4th. The idea being to provide citizens with information they needed at a time of massive administrative and social change. The one in Ulverston started in 1961, so it's been there just over 50 years. And of course, it was founded by the fathers and the parents and grandparents of people who live in Ulverston now. It came out of this community to benefit this community. And it seems to me a great pity that by almost a conjuring trick, first of all, the management of an administration of Ulverston Bureau passed to Kendal when it merged with Kendal Bureau in 2002, and now the Bureau itself is in effect disappearing from existence and being reanimated somehow in Windermere. And I think there's a great loss when you move away from citizens of a community helping other citizens to people on the telephone who live miles away,
yes,
but have no particular connection with the community.
Yes.
So there's not only the loss of the drop-in service, the loss of the human contact with another three-dimensional real person. There's also the loss of control of a local resource that's important to citizens that's now disappearing from Ulverston, as far as we can tell, forever.
And you mentioned in a previous answer that you'd started doing something in October, but up to that point I hadn't heard any mention of the fact that there was a possibility of it closing.
Well, charities have been having a hard time for some years, so every year there have been problems about funding, and certainly Ulverston Bureau has been spending more than its income for several years. But right up until halfway through September, the trustees, who are in effect the management board who run the Citizens Advice Bureau locally, right up until September they were leading us to believe that the organisation would be reasonably secure for another year. So it really burst upon people who work for the Bureau with astonishment when the trustees announced at a crisis meeting on October 6th that they decided not to apply for funding for Ulverston Bureau for the year starting March 2013.
And I was really surprised to hear that the fundraisers weren't active.
The fundraisers have disappeared. When I started working for the Bureau, there were two paid fundraisers, both of whom brought in more money than was required to pay their salary. Obviously it wouldn't work if they didn't. But one of those was made redundant some time ago. The other had to leave for personal reasons and wasn't replaced. And the trustees have even been approached by a professional fundraiser who was anxious to work for the Citizens Advice Bureau in Ulverston for free, and the trustees turned that offer down.
So there's quite a lot of concern. We talked to some people yesterday afternoon. Quite a lot of concern that we should have a Citizen Advice Bureau, and now basically we need to get people informed and doing something about it.
I think we do, because I think the trustees have got themselves in an awful tangle. They've committed themselves so strongly to this new call centre at Windermere that now it's impossible for them to ask for funding for Ulverston Bureau, because as they haven't asked for funding for that, it's almost inevitably going to go down the tube in March 2013 unless we can get the trustees to change their minds.
Well, thank you. I'll ask you another question in a minute.